and welcome to the IGN UK podcast, episode 346. And I think we've got the messiest table we've ever had.
Whose fault is
on
that?
A podcast. I mean, well, it'll all be worth it in the end. For listeners, you do not understand the epicosity of how much stuff there is
There's
on
a
our table.
Weird WWE jumper.
That's not weird, mate.
It is
my
weird.
hoodie.
It looks weird.
Wow.
Is it actually your hoodie?
Yeah, it was a gift from Gavin. It's
How
a
often
large,
do you
so
wear it?
Almost never.
Okay, so it's barely yours.
It's now getting used. It's been sat in the studio for forever.
I feel like people don't know who I am.
Well, yes. So, at my 3 o'clock position, we have the Chancellor of Germany, head of Nazi propaganda,
What?
Joseph Goebbels. Oh no, I mean Joseph Scrabbles.
It's close to racism, but this hosting job's going well.
On my right, at the 9 o'clock
Christ,
position,
what am I gonna get?
we have Dale Driver, who I did look up to see whether there was anyone with your name similar on Google.
Nobody,
It was
one of a
saddening.
kind, baby.
I found some really nice pictures of you from your days at Coventry Film School, but
Coventry Film School?
Coventry Film School, was that
That
the-
definitely doesn't exist.
well,
it was just
filming
Coventry
in
University.
Coventry University,
Yes,
studying
that's where I
film.
studied, Coventry University.
That's very good. But I do think you should enter into the Olympics just because your name sounds like you should be a world famous fencer.
Fencer?
Yes, fencing.
You're coming out with some weird stuff. What a world famous fencer?
Don't you think Dale Driver? Or back in the day, tug of war used to be a genuine Olympic sport.
What about hammer throw? I feel like I could do that.
I was going to say, I actually quite like the idea of because fencing's really posh, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you
it's not
came
me.
in
Yeah.
as Dale the Stab Driver.
A bit of rough.
Yeah, you just tore up the competition. It's like, this guy's got no decorum. He's a loose cannon. He's a wild card.
Going around calling everyone mate all the time. Right, mate?
Mate,
What's the
was
game?
that-
Yeah, stabbing him right in the grill.
You have been drive. probably not the best kind of catchphrase. But
We'll
yes,
workshop it. We'll workshop.
It's fine. It's fine. This is what happens when I host the podcast for the first time.
Seemingly.
We get mental names. But speaking of mental things,
Let's
first
segue in
up-
the back.
Actually, that's probably kind of a twist. It's not mental. Mr. Robot is a
It's a little bit mental.
I
Yes.
know it is a little bit. Well, if you've seen it, you'll understand. But Joe, you've been watching this loads, haven't you?
We're not even talking about the TV
yeah.
show. See, this is how we're messing with you.
Falling at the first hurdle.
We're playing the
Stay
Mr. Robot mobile game. Me and Dale are.
We hacked your running order, so you wouldn't know what's going on.
I actually, it all makes sense. I didn't even know there was a mobile game. This is super
Oh yes,
exciting.
and the plot even thickens. It's made by
It's
Joe
in
will
it-
elaborate on that, but Telltale are involved. as well.
Yeah, it's in association with Telltale, but it's made by Night School Studios, who made Oxenfree earlier this year, which is a game I've yet to play, but is apparently fantastic. It's like a teen drama horror game set on a weird island. But this is essentially a sort of text adventure told through actual texts.
Yeah.
Like you turn on the app and it's as if
that's
you're
awesome.
running an operating system from eCorp from the TV show. Have you watched the TV show?
I've seen the first episode.
Okay, so you know
and
enough.
I know the twist.
Okay, excellent. It seems to be set at some point during the first season, as far as I can tell.
Right.
That's what it strikes
I
me
mean,
as.
you've finished it. I'm
Yes.
probably about halfway through it, but I haven't worked out what the overarching story is. I'm sure you might know some information.
Well,
about that.
my only guess is because lots of the characters don't seem to know stuff that they would know if it was at
Okay,
the end of the
cool.
first series. But that's just a hinted thing.
Do you feel like it adds more to the show for you?
No.
Or
But then I don't
feel like that either. I feel like it's its own thing.
This is the thing. I don't really like the show that much.
Yeah.
Like, I got really bothered by it. I thought the writing was really bad. And actually, the writing here is quite poor in places as well. Not least because a lot of the things that happen make no fucking sense at all.
It's a bit weird.
Like, the game starts with a picture of a phone and it says tap to pick up this phone, and that's how you start the game. It's a phone you found on Coney Island.
Right.
And you start getting contacted by the person who owns the phone and all their original contacts. But your character acts as if they haven't just stolen a phone from the floor for a long time, which makes no sense to me at all. And I thought that is never resolved.
So
it's
is
not
it-
a spoiler
is
to
it-
say that it's not as if like
the
they're
person
coming
who
in.
contacts you as well, who actually owns the phone, they're like extremely hostile with you. Even if you obviously get prompts, so you don't type in things, you can choose answers.
So it's
Right.
multiple
To type
choice.
back- yeah, multiple
Okay.
choice.
basically.
But you can choose to be like, I'm really sorry, I'll return your phone to you, no problem, and stuff like that. And then they're like, no, you're in too deep now.
Yeah,
and you're like,
ridiculous.
Jesus, I'll just give you your phone back.
That's very Telltale well, I was talking to my housemate about this last night because he's just completed the first series of The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
And there's choices where you can kill someone in front of Clementine or not. And he was just like, oh yeah, I chose to like blow his brains out. And then immediately after, Clementine's like, that was such a terrible decision, Lee. Like, why did you do that? And then you just literally say, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm very repentant. And then she's like, oh, it's all happy and fine. So your relationship is always pretty good. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like, you've just blown someone's brains out. Clementine would not be happy, but it's the same with this, it sounds like, that no matter what decision you choose, the story's going to take you down the same way.
That's absolutely true. Where me and Joe yesterday compared ours as well, and we'd seen where we give different answers. And yeah, their first like immediate response is slightly different, but it all comes back to the same conclusion.
It seems to be along a single line, basically, which is classic Telltale stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe we're getting too bogged down in the Telltale thing, considering I'm almost positive it is not written by them. I think it is this other studio, but I guess the framework or the engine maybe is them.
Yeah, they're probably using the Telltale engine.
Yeah, I mean, but you said that I don't think it's not really that sort of engine though, is it? There's no graphical.
No,
it's
I mean like
you're in WhatsApp.
No, but that's exactly it. That's what the Telltale engine has that makes it so unique to other engines. That it's built around. Basically,
he's talking about the answer. Okay,
like the narrative side of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there
narrative story driven?
But
I was going to ask. So, in terms of the actual gameplay, when you're holding your phone in your hand, do you basically just see a messenger screen the whole time, and you're kind of or when you're not receiving messages, what are you doing?
Nothing. So, have you played the game Lifeline?
Yes, I was about to ask. Is it like Lifeline?
It's very similar to Lifeline in that you'll make a choice or you'll be waiting for a response, and it can take an actual day. Like, I think it took me about 5 days to get through, and I was generally responding as soon as I got something. So you've taken a little longer, despite starting the same day.
I get the notifications, and then I'll be doing something else, and I'll forget to do it, and then I'll only do it on my commute and things like that. So that's why I've been slower getting through it. But the good thing about Lifeline was I really enjoyed Lifeline, but it had its problems as well. But on that, you could choose to turn off like the live time sort of situation. You could say they immediately respond to you, and that was really helpful for me. Like when I was on a long journey and I just want to play this game, I just want to see what's happening, so I can disable that. It's a cool idea, but sometimes I just want to play the game. I feel like Mr. Robot's missing that a little bit.
I suppose I've had quite a nice time just like looking at my phone and going, oh shit, this guy got back to me, and like having that sort of ticking away in the background. It's not something I really want to play actively because there's not much to it. Like the wait is almost part of the fun for me. But the thing that really impresses me, because as we've said, it does appear to basically just be a linear story with very minor differences. What it does that Telltale games don't do is it does not tell you when you're making a big decision. Or even if you are. Like it never goes, someone's going to remember that.
Darlene will remember this.
Yeah, exactly. There's no element of it that feels like it's shepherding you or telling you off. Which even knowing that it's linear made it feel way more stressful. A lot of the situations you get, like particularly later on, which you'll see, you get into moments where people are actively not doing what you want them to do. And things are going wrong, and you've got multiple people talking to you, asking you to do different things. And it becomes really stressful. And because you don't know what decisions you're making or you can make a choice. It has the Telltale problem of you choose a set of like words, but they don't actually say the same thing. But at least this gives you the chance to look at them before you send them.
It's cool. It's got that sort of animation of typing it out as well, with spelling mistakes included.
So that's cool.
You can just write like, okay, as the choice, and then it will write out like, okay, I see, right, I kind of get that. Instead, and it kind of you get the chance to see what your tone will be. And so you second guess yourself a lot.
Can you communicate purely in emojis?
No, you can't. No. There's very little emoji action.
That is a terrible design flaw.
You're playing as me, someone who refuses to use emojis out of stubborn old person hate.
The best game is where you just put a selection of emojis, maybe like the devil face, the flag of China.
I already know this isn't the best game.
A banana,
flag of China,
and a broken heart emoji, and the other person has to try and decide what you're trying to communicate with that.
Or like the Deadpool advertising.
Yeah, something.
Oh yeah, that was quite good actually.
That was quite clever.
Yeah, it was really good.
But yeah, basically, I just found it a really interesting take on that stuff, and I think if Telltale take any notice of it, it will be worthwhile. Like it might, in and of itself, I'm not sure it's like a brilliant thing. Although there are moments where you're like, holy shit, I'm like actively being a terrible person, and the game is making me do that.
Basically, I'm well up for any mobile game that has narrative as its focus, because I've spoken to so many games developers over the last 2 years where mobile is seen as a space where it's, it's your Candy Crush, your Clash of Clans. Like, narrative is not a massive thing on mobile because the play sessions are so short. So people kind of play them in bus stop moments, kind of 5, even 30-second stretches. And I think a lot of developers are very intimidated by that when it comes to creating a story, because it's so hard to create a story that's given in really tiny little installments. But this format works so well for that, because it's the idea of these messages coming in and drip feeds. The difference is, I guess, is, as you were saying, Dale, the player can't actually choose when they're going to play the game. Because
that's a minor niggle, because it's trying to go for that element of realism. Like, there's a few times I've been in there and I've tried to do things what I would normally do in Messenger. Like, you get spam text messages as well, and I've tried to like swipe left on them to try and delete those messages a few times. You can't do that, obviously. I've gone through all the attachments, tried to add attachments, and just messed around with it as if it is a normal Messenger app. There's also a group convo you get in at one point where it's about 5 or 6 people talking about just their everyday shit, and it's the
clock's gone mad.
And it's so infuriating, and I really wanted to try and mute that conversation, and I couldn't, and I was just like, please shut up. I was just trying to get him through this.
It accurately simulates having a group of the worst friends in the world.
They were horrible people.
They're awful bastards.
I feel like we're being like largely negative on it, but I feel the hacking element of it is like fantastic, because it's not like you're not playing a hacking mini game or something like that. For example, the first person you hack, you need to find out their credentials for a login. Someone that requests you get that, so you get their number and you start messaging them pretending to be HR department, and they're very suspect about that. But eventually you get HR's number and you can contact their number and pretend to be her husband, and basically work out a long way around of trying to work out her password.
So there are elements of like, this is another thing that Telltale doesn't do very well. Like, they really highlight the stuff that you need a lot of the time, that classic like point and click way. In this, there are moments where you get told some information and then you'll realise that it's changed options on other conversations because you've now got the information to do it more successfully. So I don't know whether there are elements where you can just totally like screw up a conversation for a long time until you've talked to this other person, and then suddenly it makes sense. Like, maybe there are branches where you just mess up until you find out that someone else can tell you what to do.
Well, that other one with the HR department, she sent me the number, but it was just part of a conversation. And then after a while, I was stuck because she stopped talking to me, and then I went through my contacts and noticed that HR had been added. So then I went in there, but I could have easily just ignored that and been waiting around for hours for a response or something. So
do you know what's another really interesting aspect of this game? And it's so emblematic of a trend that we've been seeing so much with mobile games lately, that lots of developers have been creating games based around like larger IPs. So this is Mr. Robot. There was a Dark Souls mobile game that came out around the same time that Dark Souls 3 came out.
Souls.
It was awful.
It was crap.
It was terrible. But the point was, it existed. There was one based on...
There was a Metal Gear Solid 4 one.
Metal Gear Solid game. There was a Lara Croft game that came out.
Lara Croft Go?
Yeah.
All those Go games.
Hitman, all the Hitman Go games.
Deus Ex one as well.
There was that really terrible film that had the guy from Game of Thrones in it.
Sean Bean.
Cersei's brother, Jaime Lannister. And it was Gods of Egypt.
Oh,
there was a Gods of Egypt mobile game that came out.
That's a form of advertising, isn't it?
Exactly.
Promotion for the film.
But that's what's really interesting, that we're seeing so many of them come out now, because actually mobile gamers are really powerful. It's showing how gaming is becoming a really, really powerful force in terms of like other media, how we consume it, pulling in new players or new viewers and things. Like, actually gaming is really lifting up other areas of culture.
There's always been the tie-in, hasn't there? But nowadays
it's spot.
It's so much
7-Up advertising in SNES form.
It's so much easier now to make a mobile game that it's a very much quicker turnaround than making a full blank. Like when they made like the Independence Day game, which was absolute trash, by the way. But they made that, a £40 game.
But I find it really interesting how it's not even just the game tie-ins of movies and TV series, as we're obviously seeing. It's also mobile game versions of games, like the Slashy Soul thing. I think that's really interesting how it seems that game developers are almost trying to pull in mobile gamers who perhaps are mobile first. They've never played PC or console. They've discovered gaming through the games on their phone, and then maybe they can go, ooh, do you like this terribly created Slashy Souls game? You should go and play one of the hardest games on console.
Well, I think we're getting to the point where we're past the sort of licensed game that was like. There are good examples of this, like say Aladdin. The Aladdin license game has almost nothing to do with that film other than the sprites look the same. But nowadays we're getting so Mr. Robot is a great example of this because it feeds into that world and draws its ideas as part of its design. It's not a platformer featuring Rami Malek walking to the side and punching computers.
That's Until Dawn.
Yeah. This is like, it feeds into that world, it adds to that story, it's kind of extended universe stuff, and we get the sense of doing some of what they do themselves on a lower level, which is really exciting. It makes me like Mr. Robot, a thing I didn't like as much, more as a result.
Awesome.
Like, that's a cool thing.
Cool.
That's a really clever bit of work. And the fact that they've got in like the world's premier like adventure game company and a really cool little indie studio that people are excited about. Like, that shows a level of interest and engagement with game making as well as advertising that I can get behind. Like, if this kind of stuff gets paid for by people trying to advertise to me, I'll take that. I'll take that hit.
As long as it's a fun experience for you.
If it's good.
And it bolstered your experience of the show as well, or just made you care about the show a bit more, then it's worked for everybody, hasn't it?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow,
I like
speaking of hacking things, codes, delving into secrets, there's been a whole lot of hacking and code cracking that we've been getting our teeth into this week.
Take a deep breath, Joe.
Take a deep breath, Joe. Take a deep breath, podcast listeners, because it's not as if you're sick of us talking about a certain Overwatch.
No.
But this is genuinely actually interesting, like absolutely fascinating.
As opposed to everything else
the rest of it was bollocks.
Okay, actually, this fits in perfectly because it is, again, technically advertising for the game.
Exactly.
This is the Sombra alternate reality game that is going on at the moment, of which I have become completely tinfoil hat obsessed. Like, it's ridiculous. So, to bring you all up to speed, about 2 or 3 months ago, they started dropping hints about a character called Sombra. There's files. The Dorado level in Overwatch has a file that says Sombra on it, and all the computer screens have been hacked, and they say Protocola Sombra.
I love say that again.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Never again.
It made my spine shudder.
And so people have been looking for clues for Sombra, and originally everyone thought Anna, the last character to come out, was Sombra because she was this like hooded sniper, mysterious figure. No one knew who she was. That turned out not to be the case, and clues for Sombra have continually come out for the past few months. We've had trailers keep featuring codes. One of them had weird compass marks in the background of multiple shots, which kind of corresponded with characters from the game. There was a set of code that appeared in... Oh God! It was like a flash.
The white flash.
There was a white flash,
and
which when you changed the levels on it, and Photoshop revealed a number sequence that spelled out Sombra, and also I think that was the same one that created like ASCII art of a skull, which has been a recurring motif. The skull keeps coming up with Sombra. So all of this has been going on. Flash forward to yesterday, a binary code titled forum post appears on the Overwatch forums.
So good. It's so good.
By a character called by a user called Skycoder, which we'll get onto later because that's my favourite bit of this whole thing.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
This is such a rabbit hole.
It's ridiculous. This is going to take hours.
I feel like Neo.
Cancel all your
and
work.
you're the guy with the sunglasses.
Right. So I'll try and make this as quick as possible. The binary code translates to the number 23. Sombra, if she is the next character, will be the 23rd character. 23 becomes the key to like everything. I realised this morning that the number 23 is that film about Jim Carrey going mad because he sees it in everything. I'm
also one of the
Jim
lost
Carrey now, right? So, binary code translates
written all over your face. Why you got 23 written on your face, mate?
Coming to you at your desk, arranging all of the little models into like groups of 23.
Oh my God, it's happening. Number 23, then you click on that post, you go in, and what it initially shows is a post from a character called, from Skycoder with a string of Spanish language text that has come out before that translates to...
La que tiene la información tiene la poder.
Smash. She who has the information has the power.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the number. This was a funny thing that was pointed out. Skycoder's post count is 895. If you add 8, 9, and 5 up, that adds up to 22, making her next post number 23.
Fuck me.
So there's a lot of this. That then glitches out a picture of Reaper, which people think is a data mosh, which is where people like fuck with a picture to include codes in it. Appears. No one solved whether that is a data Mosh yet.
Jesus.
And then after that, a string of more code comes out. When run through a specific cipher using the number 23 as a key, it reveals something else. I can't quite remember the connection between that and another thing. Essentially, loads of strings of different clues came out at once.
And do you know what one of my favourite clues? This is the level of detail, right? So hidden in one of the pieces of code that came out this week was a GIF that showed the injuries that Anna had received and how she lost her eye. As part of the GIF, there was a heartbeat signature that was clearly her medical. If you broke down the heartbeats into Morse code, the rhythm spelled out another clue.
I was wrong about that. It's not Morse code. What it is it's if you split it into 26. Wait, no. How many letters are there in the alphabet?
Oh my goodness.
Is it 26?
24. No, I thought it was 24. Is it?
Anyway,
24?
We should know
it's not 23.
You two should.
If you split it into increments that correspond to each of the letters of the alphabet, each heartbeat appears in a place that spells out the words "moment in crime." Moment in crime is an in-universe TV show that they've only ever used once in a video a year ago, introducing Junkrat and Roadhog to the game.
Wow.
That video had a tips line that you could email. So at the time, if you emailed it, it would just send you back like a stock response saying like, "Thank you for helping us look for Junkrat and Roadhog, blah, blah, blah." Yesterday, if you went to a momentincrime.com, it had changed into a set of Spanish language stuff. I can't remember exactly what it said, but I think at the time it said Protocolo Sombra version 1.3. That becomes interesting later on. And if you emailed tips@momentincrime.com, it would send you back the stock footage, but the stock message. But in between, it broke up with another set of codes that I can't remember how they correspond.
Basically, I think what we've got from this is insane.
Right.
The developers have this world that they've created is so rich that they're creating this kind of community. The Overwatch community has always been strong. We've seen that in terms of how they communicate.
Sounds like they're playing this rather than playing the game anymore.
Yeah,
it's the ARG.
Is so cool. I think this is absolutely awesome.
It keeps going.
Oh god.
Oh my goodness.
It goes so much further. Right. So, the original post, it took people a while to realise that instead of the age of the post on the main forum, where it would usually say this was created 6 minutes ago or whatever, it said created 22, or actually probably 23 hours ago when it first came out. And it was getting younger, so people realised that was in fact a countdown. So, the countdown...
Do that? Is it an Overwatch forum, official forum?
Yeah, it's their own thing, so they've messed with it. So... that countdown ended at 8:30 last night. People had got loads of clues. There was another ASCII art skull that appeared. Everyone just assumed, me included, that Sombra would be revealed at the end of this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what happened?
Nothing, right?
Mentiras!
The post disappears, right? The forum is immediately flooded with about 7,000 messages saying, "What the fuck?
Fuck yeah!
What is going on?" At this point,
all a massive practical joke.
last night I'd planned a really nice night in. I bought like a nice steak. I cooked sweet potato chips.
Nice.
I'd made a really nice dinner. I was going to watch film.
Sit down for Sombra.
And I was just going to check and see, Sombra's here, and watch the trailer. Instead, what I did was logged into the Game Detectives Discord chat and watched 3,000 people tear themselves to pieces trying to find new things until I went to sleep. It was fucking insane, right? So a million things happened after this, and most of them were bullshit. Okay. The main thing is that momentincrime.com got updated again. It changed colour, slightly changed its text, and now what it says at this moment is something along the lines of activating Omnics. Omnics are the
robots, the Bastion.
Are the robots in the story of that game.
Yeah.
There is a percentage counter counting up this time, unfortunately, so no one knows when it's going to end.
Yeah.
That is going up incredibly slowly. So it started at 2%. Oh, and by the way, it changed to version 1.7, the Sombra protocol after this.
Right, okay.
Oh, no, wait, sorry. It was 1.3 on this first, then it was 1.7 in the email, and now it's 1.9. Worth pointing out, 13, 17, 19 are all prime numbers. After that, 23 is the next prime number.
Oh my god.
So everyone's expecting version 2.3 to be the next Sombra protocol.
I know. I feel slightly exhausted.
Stressing me
There
out.
is so much more.
Just a quick interruption. You know
Yes.
when you said colour change on the website?
Yeah.
Did someone try and go into the colour code for that?
Everyone's looked to see if that hex code is itself a code. There are hidden messages in the source code of that website.
Dale, I think we need to stage an intervention
No.
on Joe. Joe is
Maybe you should just get back to playing Overwatch, mate. It's really fun.
There are hidden messages in the source code of that website that are essentially
The
mocking
whites
people.
of your eyes are bulging.
I know.
He's gone cross-eyed.
There are that say that the original thing was too easy, and now they have a password, but no one knows what that password is or what it does. So this thing's gone up from 2% last night to 5% today. At that rate, people think it's going to take at least a week for it to finish. Which,
That trajectory, it might speed up.
but some people think that when it gets to 6%, I can't remember why, it will change to 2.3, which would be 23, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Loads of other shit happened. I'm going to just go over it very quickly because people were going mad last night. A load of Overwatch celebrities, like YouTubers and certain parts of Machinima and stuff, all changed their Twitter profile pictures to the Sombra Skull and started tweeting messages as if they'd been hacked.
Right.
It's almost positive at this point that was all a massive hoax and that all these bastards had decided to do this themselves.
I mean, that would be hilarious.
I'm almost sure they did.
Why do you think they were decided to themselves? Surely they were put up to it.
Well, so because they were quoting stuff from a website called playoverwatch.us, which was fake and had been created that day.
Right.
So the idea that a fake website would be posting the same text they're posting makes no sense. Like, it was proved that was basically provably fake, unless Blizzard have gone really crazy with it.
This is crazy.
Which is unlikely.
This is crazy enough.
Okay. During all of this, Blizzard gets DDoS attacked.
Oh, shit.
Everyone assumes that this is part of the ARG. It almost certainly isn't.
Someone's pissed off because they just want to know about Sombra.
The fake messages mentioned the Gibraltar map, and at this point, people could not access the Gibraltar map on the PTR on the PC version. So everyone's losing their mind that there's secrets in Gibraltar. So when they could get in, people were looking around in there for ages. There are so many things happening, and this Discord chat is just a ream of furious people trying to figure out this stuff. It was fascinating. It's still going on. I've got it open on my computer outside.
We're taking you away from it, aren't we?
I'm just watching it.
To be fair, do you know, this podcast took so long to start because you were sat at your computer, and Dale and I came in, we were here for like 10 minutes. Where's Joe?
I didn't realise you were waiting.
You were just there. You were just there looking at code.
This is all in service of a single new character in this freaking game.
She's a hacker, right? She's got to be a hacker.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Sombra means shadow.
But then the hoaxes keep coming. People keep making fake videos of invisible characters running around levels and stuff.
This is the thing. This is one of the wonderful things about this whole shebang, but also one of the terrible things that the longer it goes on, the more it's opening it up to hoaxes. Because people are going to get impatient, and then people can play with each other's mind, and then actually the true trail can be lost amongst a ton of breadcrumbs. Most of them stale.
I promise this is going to be the last thing, but this is what proves Blizzard are just the best at this, and this is why I'm obsessed with this thing, because everything could be real. The name Skycoder, which I talked about before, is an in-joke. So recently, they introduced a load of new emotes where the characters sit down, and one of them is Diva sitting down playing a video game and drinking and eating what looks like Doritos and Mountain Dew, which is an ongoing internet joke about her being a gamer. Yeah, that's just them kind of engaging with the community. Better than that, in the search for Sombra a few weeks ago, Jeff Kaplan, the game director, kept making reference to this whole thing is above our heads. Like, whenever anyone asked about Sombra, he was like, "Oh, this whole mystery is above our heads." Okay. So people took that literally and started looking in the sky boxes of levels. Right? On the Dorado level, there is a slight texture aberration in the sky. Right. People took that to be a code. They fed that through a program that turns video distortion into audio distortion, and it created a song that people now call the Sky Song. It's total bullshit. It's fully acknowledged that this is just crap and people have looked too far. Yeah. The best thing about this is Zenyatta now has a sitting emote that plays the Sky Song.
That's so lovely.
Which is just lovely. This is why all of these hoaxes and stuff could eventually become part of the fabric of the game. The community engaging, finding clues, trying to discover things about this even if they're wrong, Blizzard are going, that's actually kind of cool, let's use that.
Yeah.
And it becomes this huge like inverse churn of stuff to discover.
This is awesome.
Which is why I'm not bothered by the fact that I spent my entire evening last night looking for stuff, because who knows what's going to happen. Like, I just find it really exciting, and it's the most I've ever been invested in this kind of thing. Like, I've never cared about an ARG. I barely care about most game stories, to be honest. Overwatch barely has a story as far as anything's concerned, but this
in terms of actual gameplay.
This is just holding my attention, because everything Blizzard does is fed by everyone feeding it in the first place. It's really lovely, and it feels like a brilliant community to be a part of.
Well, as you descend into a puddle of quivering madness foaming at the mouth, sitting in a dark room covered in the number 23 scrawled into your skin, that leads us nicely onto horror movies and horror games.
Had to work for that one.
Segue. Which I really want to talk about this week, because we've had a few trailers that have dropped. Obviously, we're coming up to October. All the trailers are dropping for the horror movies then. We've had Blair Witch and the trailer for Rings drop recently. We've also found out this week that Alison Road, which is this kind of PT survival-esque horror set in this photorealistic house, that's now happening again. It was cancelled, but it's being picked back up again. So there's a lot of horror happening at the moment in the kind of games versus movies space, but I am way more excited by everything happening in the gaming space. I looked at the trailer for Rings, for example, and I just thought it was... If you've watched the originals...
Rubbish?
Yeah, rubbish.
Yeah.
Absolutely rubbish. If you've watched the originals, you know, there's a whole lot of lore that they explore around that, and it feels like with Rings, they've kind of just... I don't know, gone a bit mental. They're trying to do body horror. There's a lot of like pulling hair out of your mouth and, you know, things coming up under your skin and stuff. But it just feels a load of special effects, a load of shocks, a load of jump scares, which aren't actually scares. They're just you being startled. Like
Guarantee they were all the biggest bits in the film as well.
All the biggest bits in the film, and they've been crammed into the trailer. And I feel like that's kind of the state of a lot of horror movies that we've been seeing recently, whereas gaming seems to be experimenting with the format slightly. Gaming seems to be, you know, and not...
I'm on and off with that, because I do feel like Silent Hill, or not Silent Hills, PT, has done... So what we were talking about before we came in is that horror films tend to follow the leader. Like, as soon as something big happens, 10 more of those things come out in the mainstream. Like, that's just how it works. And for the first time, it feels like horror is doing that in gaming. Between PT and Outlast, we're now seeing like
Resident Evil,
dark, grimy, first-person horror games, like everywhere. Amnesia obviously came before that, and that kind of subgenre of like true, like just chasing thrill, is like now part of the mainstream. Like Resident Evil's doing it. Namco's new thing, Get Even, is quite close to that.
Alien
like,
Isolation.
So
all of those.
I'm not entirely sure, like, games are experimenting more than...
So I think you can draw it back into the actual experience of watching a horror movie versus playing a horror game. I think when you watch a horror movie, because it's so prescripted, like you're sat there and you have absolutely no control, and often the scares are built around the camera angles. So when the camera turns really suddenly, your vision and focus is pulled with the camera, and then there's something suddenly standing there, and there's that kind of, or it's what you're not seeing off camera that's the kind of terror. Whereas when you're playing a video game, you are being placed physically in that hostile environment, and it's not necessarily the camera angles. There is sometimes that's a scare. It's actually the environment itself. So it's seeing something fall off a shelf, or the music playing in the background, or just the sound of something in the... I feel like background sounds like the drip of something or the sound of something down a corridor is a lot more terrifying in a game, because it's got that level of immersion. And I feel like that's what games are experimenting more with, which we're seeing in Alison, where there's 13 minutes of prototype gameplay which you can go and look at, and it's about the detail. You know, you wake up and you're in a living room, and he doesn't really seem to remember who it is. Like, you know, potentially very Amnesia-esque, but he, you know, you can either just run straight through to the kitchen, or you can start picking up things around the room.
All
and
the DVDs are real and stuff. Like you can look at them really closely.
And it seems really innocuous at first, but then actually when he picks up, say, a wedding magazine, and he's like, why have I got a wedding magazine? And he flicks it over, and there's a really creepy drawing of a child that's clearly drawn their mother with like a knife through her heart.
Classic.
Like, classic. What did you do at school today, Tilly? But like, it's...
Tilly?
Yeah.
Just throwing Chris under the bus.
That was the first girl's name that came into my head. Poor Chris. But yeah, like there's this, I don't know, I feel like I'm definitely more terrified by horror games than I am by horror movies.
Well, I think it's because you're also, where a film goes, and now you're turning. In a game, it's you being afraid to turn the camera.
Yeah.
Like there is an element
of control
the
view. And also you said earlier about the camera angles, and I think that's not true at all, really. Like for me, it's always been... sound design is like 70% of the scares, really.
In horror movies?
In both. It's absolute. So more movies until recently, more now games as well. But so the sound of silence as well is such a big...
That is really powerful
thing.
Done well.
Because especially in games as well, it's like, you've been trained to know that something is coming, a jump scare is coming. And now it's trying to subvert that. But they do it all with music and sound. Like it's something you don't think about too much.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, that I feel like they do it much better in games, because in movies, I feel like camera angles in terms of, like, do you remember in like Paranormal Activity with the way they'd set up a camera
and it would go from side to side, that pans,
that film was terrible, that film, but that one bit was amazing.
Yeah, it's such a good idea.
Brilliant idea.
Really good idea, but it's a trope that we see again and again and again and again in horror movies. And I feel like when I think of sound in horror films, I often think of the music more so than I think of the sound effects, which I feel like in games, silence, sound effects are done really, really well, and they create a more kind of immersive experience.
I think they're both cut from the same cloth. I think the big difference now is, like Joe said, like, so when you're playing PT, you've got to make that decision to go around the corner. You've got to force your character to do it.
Well, and there's that element of like, that game's built entirely around hating the idea of what's on the other side of that door, because every time you go through it, who knows what the next thing is.
Oh, that's awful.
I mean, PT is still a cut above everything else I've played of that sort. Like, it's unbelievable what that does to you.
I mean, even the Resident Evil demo, the first demo, we haven't played the second one, but me and you played it, and it was just... we played it through it once, and afterwards it was like, it wasn't really scary, was it?
Well, so that is the potential downfall that I think that horror games have, where horror movies actually have one up, in that even though the experience is really scripted in a horror movie, like you expect that, you know that, and so you suspend disbelief and you kind of put yourself into that world. The action happens to you. But in a game, because it's your environment, you expect your experience to be really unique to you. So, but there are things that you can really miss, like in Amnesia, the first time you see the creature, it kind of crosses a corridor in the distance, and I missed that first time. Or you like, it's just this kind of weird thing where you're, compared to movies and films, you're kind of... The barrier means that I don't really know what I'm trying to say. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. I lost my point because I was thinking of how terrified I was when I finally did see that gigantic creature who then stalks you for the entire game, and it's absolutely terrifying. But
the bit in the water.
The bit in the water is so scary, and it's so sloshy. Oh my goodness.
So sloshy.
So sloshy.
I think we talked about this recently, but like the thing, I've never really liked horror films, particularly horror games either. Like, and I've gotten more interested in them recently for whatever reason, and I think in films more than games we're seeing like this sort of underground side of it become way more interesting. Like, while mainstream films sort of stagnate, or horror films sort of stagnate in that way, there's this like strange sort of set of offshoots that I'm really enjoying whenever I see them. So like stuff I've loved recently is like A Field in England, The Witch, Under the Skin, like these very like almost arty like takes on horror. And particularly when you were talking about silence, like one of the most horrifying scenes I've seen recently is not horror's usual like withholding everything from you. There's just this one scene in A Field in England where Reece Shearsmith's character goes into a tent you hear screaming for a long time, and then he comes out and all the noise cuts out, and there's just like this very slow, almost like you know when people were like slowing down Justin Bieber tracks 500%, like that kind of like music over it.
That is
and
terrifying.
Reece Shearsmith comes out on with a rope attached around him to the bad guy, and he's just got this enormous grin on his face, and you have no idea why. And it's this slow motion shot for about 3 minutes of him just walking out, and it is disgusting. It's so hard to deal with, and you don't know why. And that kind of like
you're waiting. So that's also editing as well. You're
Yeah.
waiting for the cut to happen.
Yeah.
Like you've been trained, like when you're watching the visual medium, for the cut to happen, and then you're just standing there, and you're on the edge of the seat. It's the same thing with the silence. You're waiting for these things to happen. It's the moments in between that are scary, as opposed to
I think
the
like
delivery.
that vaguely psychedelic side of horror. Like there's the other Ben Wheatley film, Kill List, does that, where it's like very realistic for a long time and then just goes batshit at the end. And Barbarian Sound Studio, I don't know if you saw, that's all about horror sound. Like it's about a guy in the 70s working in Italian horror cinema and going slowly mad because like the sound of horror is freaking him out so much.
Oh, God.
It's terrifying. It's really, really good. And that sort of slightly like hazy edged horror stuff is really interesting to me at the moment, which is something that I don't see games doing right now.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
They're a lot more about like, here's a thing well, not in your face, but like confronting you with a horrible event.
Even games that are more subtle in terms of there's a build up to it, like PT or Alison Rogue and stuff. There's still, you're building up to that really horrible thing that's going to go booga, booga, booga at the end.
But yeah, it is interesting, and I think it is a really good time for horror. I think partly because people are just more accepting of it than ever. Like people want to be scared a lot of the time.
Totally. And I'm so excited for the new Blair Witch.
Apparently it's incredible.
The new Blair Witch does look genuinely actually
I absolutely
quite
adore
good.
the first Blair Witch, and the fact that it's just sort of snuck up out of nowhere. And
Because there were so many questions left unanswered in the original Blair Witch.
Was that why you were excited to see it?
Yeah.
And I could not care less about that. I mean, I do, obviously, but I like the fact there's an unanswered question. I just want that experience again. I just want to be in that environment and that world. And then apparently Chris said, imagine the last 10 minutes of Blair Witch and then intensify that and extend it out.
He was saying there's a lot more in the house.
I'm in.
I'm well up for that. I absolutely cannot wait. And it's funny though that we're talking about horror movies and stuff, because last night, don't know if you guys saw, Great British Bake Off started again.
I did not see.
And
The true horror.
And we were sat there, I was watching it with my housemates, and at the beginning of a horror movie how you choose one person and it's like that's the person that's going to survive to the end, and if they don't then you have to drink or something, and everyone has a person that's who's gonna die. My housemates and I did that with Bake Off.
Who's gonna die?
Who's going to die?
Well, basically
You're all quite old,
Sue
though, aren't
Perkins
they?
is
Right.
doomed.
we all chose one that we thought was the best baker,
Right.
and then we're completely rooting for them, and it was so good.
Did anyone's go out at the first round?
No, they
That would've been
didn't.
fun.
Thank goodness. Although I got so worried. Mine was Andrew. I adore Andrew. Andrew is the best.
You bear in mind neither of us have watched it yet.
Andrew is
no
great.
intention.
I was going to, but then Sombra happened. So
Oh, you missed out.
The event known as Sombra happened.
yeah.
Too busy.
If they'd have made a Sombra cake, you would have been there.
Well, yeah,
imagine if
it
there
was
was.
if one of their
imagine if
cakes had
someone-
23 on the top.
Exactly.
And it had
Like binary code
If
around
they'd
the perimeter.
if it depended on the exact amount of chocolate sprinkles they'd put on the top, added up to some binary code that then could be used to translate what someone had written in their ganache.
I better go and check that.
I'm out. It was really, really good. And it's like Great British Bake Off is a massive entertainment phenomenon, like in terms of what we watch in the UK, how it's gone over to America. And it's just the most quintessentially British, beautiful thing ever. And you are so not interested, Dale. Your
Could not
face.
give a solitary shit.
Oh, it's so good.
It is good. I like it.
I mean,
It's really good.
I've seen it in passing, and it's not for me.
Do you know what I think is the best thing about it? And why you should love it?
Why I should love it.
Why you should love it.
Why you must.
Because one of the judges is this guy called Paul Hollywood, and
Good
he
name.
is just absolutely brutal on the most wonderful, chintzy, gingham twee show.
What were those words you just said?
The most middle class words you can find imaginable. He kind of sweeps in, and the way that he gives feedback to these bakers. He'll just be like, that's rubbish. That's inedible. That's disgusting. Inedible. And he has like these piercing grey blue eyes. But when you Google him and find out more about him, this man created the world's most expensive bread loaf,
what does that mean?
Exactly.
It's called Hollywood.
Exactly. Like you could.
I used grain brought from the moon.
I milked angel tears.
Gross.
Milked angel tears.
Exactly. Like anyone could actually. I could go down to the local shop and buy a £600 TV, sandwich it between two baps, and say, "There you go, world's most expensive loaf." But
Sandwich it between two baps.
Yeah.
That is a waste of a television. Also,
but it is the world's most expensive loaf.
That's not a loaf. A loaf is one thing.
All right, Great British Bake Off judge.
Well, yeah, that's inedible.
What's his name again?
Paul Hollywood.
What's his real name?
Paul Hollywood.
He is actually called
What's
Paul
his real
Hollywood.
name?
You're called Dale Driver. You are not one to talk.
Whatever. I refuse to accept that someone is called Paul Hollywood by birth.
He's an absolutely terrifying man. I keep expecting, speaking of horror, the camera to just pan round at one point and he's just curled in the corner with one of the legs of the runners dangling outside his mouth. He has the look of someone who consumes humans.
That's weird.
Oh.
His tan,
I don't see that.
he is so tanned, he is probably glazed.
That's it. He looks like sort of the demon that inhabits Cillian Murphy has sort of entered a middle-aged like beachgoer's
I can
body.
see that.
It's kind of odd, like his
absolutely
weird
see that.
eyes and his terrifying stare. But he's just got like a normal kind of schlubby man's body.
And yeah, it's one of our
He's a terror.
biggest cultural
It's the new Top Gear.
exports. It's the new Top Gear, which is very interesting. And there is a reason that I'm talking about Bake Off. And there is a reason there's a gigantic WWE hoodie.
Because we're going to wrestle over a cake, Dale.
I will win.
So
Don't know,
we
mate,
have
I've
a
got
quiz.
weight on you.
We have a very special quiz because, as you know, I tend to feed you guys when I come on the podcast.
What?
It's either chili
That's like
chocolates
once.
Oh, I wasn't there.
or 100% chocolates. I'm just
That was
here.
it. That
was it.
I'm here for you guys.
I always feed you. Always.
always eat the paper. But for this, you're going to need to put on the blindfolds that I have
Oh,
provided
sweet.
for you.
All right.
Yours, Joe, is actually a proper red blindfold.
Like proper deer hunter stuff. this.
Exactly.
So why have I got the glasses?
You've got these mental glasses which we found underneath Rory's desk, which are
But they're like
mirrored.
mirrored glasses, but you've still put-
I've stuck post-it notes on the top because otherwise you would have been able to see. I've stuck them on. Okay, right.
That looks good, man.
Cover your eyes and I will explain.
All right.
I will explain
Just double
the
noting.
game.
The problem is my head's really
This
big.
is real good audio.
I've got the highest possible helmet size you can buy in shops. So this is very tight.
Okay.
Oh God.
I am testing.
Am I still talking into the mic?
You are.
In another
Who am
room.
I? Where am I?
Right.
Right.
I feel like I know what's going to happen.
this is
If
so
it's got
tight.
nuts in it, I'm going to be fuming.
Are you allergic to nuts?
No, I just hate them.
Oh gosh, I had a really horrible. My heart stopped for a minute. This is my assassination attempt. Right, so there's 3 products that I've got here, all bakery related. You have to correctly identify each one, give its correct name, and then give the rest to me so I can eat them.
I have
Okay.
no chance at this game whatsoever.
Round.
Also, this is really weird that I can't see you because we don't know who's going to talk.
Yeah, this
at
is
what
terrifying.
Also, I think just the fun in this for me is watching you try to eat with like not being able to see how to put the thing in your mouth.
This is going to take long because this is
One
really
for
tight
you.
on my eyes.
Oh yeah, I just realised, Joe, I've been holding this out to you for
Oh.
ages, and of course you can't
Yes.
see.
For the benefit of the audio,
Oh, it's
we are
sticky.
both blindfolded.
Right, so you're going to need to
What is
describe.
that? That feels like a dead mouse. What on earth?
Right.
Is this edible? Oh my god,
I'll let
I
Joe-
just smashed it into the mic.
After Joe, explain what you are experiencing. I'm eating already. This is great.
Oh, it's fallen on me.
Right. Should I start eating or should I wait for Joe?
Oh, it's quite... It's pastry. Oh, is it like a... Am I meant to guess?
Yep. And describe.
Is it like a Danish? It's quite soft. It's a puff pastry. It's very tasty. Oh! It's a pecan swirl. Pecan
Close.
twist.
Close.
It's pecan.
Yeah.
Pecan and maple.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah?
Dale,
Okay.
do
Can I
you
eat the rest?
concur?
It's really nice.
It's really good.
It's one of my
Oh, have I got the
favourites.
same thing? Oh, sorry. I've just been waiting.
Yeah. Joe.
Yeah, what
I
Joe
can't actually
said.
tell where my mouth is. Wait. All right.
I have no idea. I am not
Oh, Christ.
In which
a
case,
cuisine man.
The point does indeed go to Joe. It is a Danish pecan maple twist.
Oh, smash. I got all the words just in the right order.
Oh my god, it's delicious.
It's so good.
I love podcasts when you can hear people eating.
This is the best quiz. You have to edit this as well. Joke's on you.
All right, round 2. This time...
Look, I'm going to have to clean up in here afterwards as
Yeah,
well.
I'm all covered in
I'm
crumbs.
cleaning up with
Yeah.
my face. This round...
I better not take off this blindfold and you're just licking crumbs off the table.
Okay, maybe it's a good shout that you guys both go at the same time.
Right, yeah, I don't really understand.
Yeah, right, so go at the same time and whoever
What
thinks
is
they've got it
this?
first.
This feels phallic.
Is this a pear?
No,
Right,
pretzel.
there's a soft bit there. Yeah, we meant... What were we guessing at the same time?
What did you say, Dale?
Pretzel.
Pretzel! I didn't even...
Just
This
stick it in
game
your mouth.
has no rules.
We're just getting to eat.
I mean, that's okay.
And it is
To
nearly
eat
lunchtime,
bakery
so I'm appreciating this.
And happy British Bake Off. Oh my god.
See, I'm trying to keep track of my calories at the moment, and I'm going to have to put in like a bit of a pretzel into my fitness app.
I apologise to everyone on the audio. This is so bad, just hearing us eat.
Oh, but it's so good. It's so right and so wrong. Right.
Oh, it's tough.
Okay. Here is the final round.
So we're just guessing first one to
Okay.
guess.
You cannot guess. Right,
it's
just
sticky.
It's like
feeling.
a starfish.
Something sticky just went in my hand. Oh, God.
Yep, no guessing yet. No, but Dale, you both have to eat at the same
Well,
time.
I can't see Joe.
No, I also don't understand this
Okay,
game.
right, now you can both eat.
Right.
Okay.
It's cinnamon.
Yep.
It's a cinnamon explosion. Cinnamon Danish, cinnamon...
Cinnamon explosion.
Yeah.
What is the correct name?
I don't know. Cinnamon bun.
I have no idea, but it tastes
Oh.
nice.
It is, you are correct in identifying the cinnamon. It is a cinnamon swirl, a Danish
I
cinnamon
said
swirl.
a twist or
Oh,
something.
you said
didn't
an
I?
explosion.
No, well,
These are different.
I don't like the taste of cinnamon, so it put me off.
Can I take
did
these
eat the
glasses
rest.
off now? I feel like I've lost anyway, so...
Woohoo! I do think the winner of that was Joseph Scrabbles, baking extraordinaire.
Oh my
gonna
God,
leave
look at
this
the
on.
mess on this table. Jesus
Dale's
Christ.
just taking off his
God, it's so
glasses.
bright! Oh, I'm
It's genuinely
crying.
painful. I am so happy now right now.
Thanks for the free food. by
This
the
is
way.
actually
much
great.
food.
Oh my God, it is so messy.
I'm German. I did actually have a can of Foster's in my bag for the winner. But I
What?
don't really know. I mean, are you...
I'm alright.
Would you bestowing upon Joe Scrabbles the can of Foster's?
Thanks.
Woo!
Wash down this pretzel.
So what has this podcast become? You're drinking a can of Foster's and eating a pretzel.
I'm eating a pretzel.
I
I'm
wanna try these on, they
snorting
look
the
good.
cinnamon
Unbelievable.
swirl. Nom, nom, nom.
Right.
Feedback!
Oh, see,
Yeah.
you could see.
Thank you for still listening, people. Well, I wasn't though.
You could see.
I could, but I wasn't. Yeah, I still lost though.
Oh, actually, it's refracting my
I'm so
shirt.
happy right
You'd have to
now.
be like that.
Yeah.
Where's my hand?
Yeah, thank you for still listening to the podcast. If you are, I would have given up by now. So
Gosh.
no, it's the sound of people eating. It would
Who
have drove
doesn't
me
want to
mad.
listen
It
to...
would have drove me mad.
Everyone should just
A
get
bloke
their
eating-
own
drinking
pretzels
Fosters.
or cake-based products at home and eat along with us.
It's past 12, isn't it?
Yeah,
This is legit.
it's nearly lunchtime actually. So
Oh, it's me.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you're up first, Joe.
I'm drunk.
worst podcast ever. This is.
Matt Rye. Like the bread. Bake Off. Hello, all. I've recently started what I'm calling my quest to catch up on all of the... He emphasises that. That's my voice. On all of the movies I should have seen by now, but haven't. I've gathered suggestions from friends on Facebook and put together quite an eclectic list. Here's some of what I've done so far. He's rated all of these out of 10. Dead Poets Society.
What did you get?
Guess, let's do
Very
quiz.
good.
Miniature quiz.
What do I think he's rated
7.
it?
6.7, very good.
Oh,
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
10.
It should be a 9.
Should be a 10.
4.5.
Well, that's
What the hell?
despicable.
I don't know how old... Oh, I do. He's 35.
Well,
you
that's
should like Monty
bullshit.
Python. Get out.
I'm curious.
Interesting. Notting Hill.
I've never
6.
seen it.
8.0.
Blimey.
Almost twice as good as Monty Python.
That is.
I've not seen it,
an
but I
argument for
disagree.
another day.
The Goonies.
6.
8.
5.5.
Well, that's
Nice.
just disgusting as well.
I've never watched it.
Yeah.
The
Your
Godfather.
lip curled in disdain.
Final one, The Godfather.
10.
9.5.
I mean, it's a bloody good film.
The biggest reaction I've received to any of these films until now has been around my low score for The Goonies. People flipped out. Nostalgia has its grip on too many with this title. It just wasn't that good of a movie. I was very, very pleasantly surprised with The Godfather, and I can't wait to watch part 2. First, what is the UK's podcast's definitive list of 10 movies you have to see before you die?
Goodness.
Can you work out a list of 10 you can all agree on? Well,
let's not do that.
Alicia's watched 9 films ever. So that's going to be a problem.
How about we do one film each?
One film each that you have to have watched.
Yeah.
And I won't say The Prestige because I mention it on every podcast I'm ever on.
So good.
Linking to that, though, I'll go first and I'll say Memento.
Oh, that is good.
And that's from a filmmaker's
good
point of
film.
view as well. It's just something that completely like subverted all sorts of genres and did like its own original thing. And it's a film I think everybody has to see. I don't want to reveal anything about it, but absolutely watch it if you haven't. Memento by Christopher Nolan.
Can you come back to me?
I'm going to say an incredibly flawed film that I have hugely fond memories of, Event Horizon.
I love Event
Lawrence
Horizon.
Fishburne and Sam Neill going mad because of demons.
I also refuse to accept any flaws. It's a perfect film.
People hate Event Horizon.
Why?
I do not get it. I think it's a brilliant sci-fi
Alysia,
horror
have you
film.
seen Event Horizon?
Nope.
You're going to watch Event Horizon.
That's it. We were talking about...
That's a good horror film.
Before Alysia joined,
film.
we were talking about screening films that Rory hasn't seen that we all love.
Yeah.
Now we've got to do it for you and Rory.
Event Horizon's so good. I'll bring
love
it in
it.
for you tomorrow. You've got to watch
Literally,
it.
I'm loving this. Every week, Dale's bringing me in a film. Last week it was Spinal Tap.
Have you watched it?
I really liked it.
Say Spinal Tap then. Spinal Tap's so good. What's yours?
It's really
I
hard.
like doing this with the Fosters.
A film that I absolutely think that you have to see before you die. I mean, it depends on what you like with a film. I mean, I really love 500 Days of Summer. I absolutely
film.
I like that
adore
film.
it.
Yeah.
And I think
I think that's a very modern take on rom-coms that is like very enjoyable as a result.
I love that first line. This is not a love story. This is a story about love. I just think it's a really, really true.
It's a perfectly acceptable answer.
I think that's a very good film.
I passed the test.
And that's ruled out of keyword countdown forever now. So you can't get that. Second, how much should nostalgia play into a score for a movie? Well, I've just done that with Event Horizon.
Yeah.
The example I used to explain my low score for Goonies was as follows. If you were to show me Goonies and Spotlight as an 8-year-old, I would have loved Goonies and hated Spotlight. As a 35-year-old, I think Spotlight is a wonderful film and Goonies is just not that good. Pardon me, that's the Fosters. What are your thoughts? Right.
That's crazy.
Firstly,
what you just said.
Comparing Goonies and
Yeah.
Spotlight. Spotlight, a film about the institutional cover-up of child rape. That
Goonies features no child rape.
no,
Thank goodness.
that makes
Does finish your truffle.
not much sense to me.
No, and also the idea of scoring something when you're nostalgic about it.
Hey, okay, here's
Like,
a-
why would you watch something? Like,
It
if I'm nostalgic about
automatically
memory, why would I
gets
be scoring this out of
Yeah.
nowhere?
the thing about nostalgia is it works. It's the point. Like,
Absolutely.
I have hugely fond memories of films that are no good.
Absolutely.
Because I watched them as a kid and
Yeah.
didn't know any better, and it became a part of my subconscious.
The amount of spoof films I absolutely adore, which I know on paper are awful films,
Yeah.
and if they came out today, I'd dismiss them as Meet the Spartans or whatever they're called. You know?
Oh my
what I mean?
god, I watched that on a rainy day in Australia and I nearly killed myself.
Yeah. But that, I imagine, maybe not, but imagine if as an adult I'd gone back and watched, like, what's a good example? Hot Shots or something like
Yeah.
that. Then I'd probably think it's a trash film, but nostalgia plays into that, obviously, big time.
I think so. Yeah, actually, the other film I was tossing up saying was Hot Rod, which I think is one of the greatest
It's a
comedies ever made.
fantastic- Have you seen Hot Rod?
No,
You're going to watch Hot Rod.
But I think if I didn't have I think I'd like it.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have the association that I do, like I watched it when I was kind of making a best friend at uni.
Yeah.
And like
That was your film together.
and that was a thing that we watched over and over again.
I had that with Old School, you know, the Will Ferrell
Yeah.
film. So I lived with two guys at one point in my life, and we watched that film religiously.
Yeah.
We'd put it on like every week. It was just a film to watch when we were hanging out.
Like, I don't think I'd think Hot Rod is the best comedy ever made without
Absolutely
that.
not.
But it's legitimately that thing is allowed. Like,
Yeah.
nostalgia is fine.
Yeah.
Like, as long as.
Why does everything have to be scored? Why
Yeah.
can't you just enjoy a film or not enjoy a film?
But there is
Fair point.
but there is an interesting point to be made about watching a film that people view with nostalgia that you don't. So I've never seen Goonies.
Yeah.
But if I watched that alongside. What's a comparable film? Like Super 8, maybe?
Yeah.
Like a film of similar
way
like
better than Super
intentions. But that's the thing. I might not think that way, and that's because I don't have a childhood association. Whereas Super 8 came out sort of young enough for me to have like a positive association with it in that way.
Ignore that the Goonies is also a Spielberg film as well.
Yes.
So it's not like just some random fashion
exactly.
It was a big deal. And
we're back on to Goonies specifically. Goonies!
Fucking love the Goonies.
I do need to watch it. But like, that is a really interesting point. I think maybe we've poured too much scorn on Matt Rye.
Yeah.
But I think there is a point to be made that nostalgia is both valid and like,
well,
like you say, scoring doesn't work when it comes to nostalgia because it's not an objective thing anymore.
I get his process though. He's going through it and he's watching films he's never seen and watching it as an adult for the first time without that nostalgia attachment. He's looking at it from a different perspective. But it's impossible for me to do that with that film because I'll always have that nostalgia. You can't take that away.
And that's why you can absolutely adore films that you're so nostalgic about, but recognise that they are incredibly pantaloons.
But then
Pantaloons.
I think we can all agree that you scoring Monty Python and the Holy Grail even lower.
Pure
You
madness.
are a maniac, sir.
Wrong.
Never listen to us again.
Wrong.
And your mother smelt of elderberries.
elderberries.
And your
Do you want
father
to
was
go
a
next,
hamster.
Dale?
No, you go.
Shall I go next? Ooh,
No, I don't.
No, I don't. Oh, yeah.
There's a number system,
It does
you
say
see.
number 2 at the top of mine. This is titled First World Gamer
That's half of
Problems.
23.
Guess what I've got?
Oh shit, there's 2 out of 3. And I couldn't work out how to add one to that.
I think the can of Foster's now in your hand as you kind of try and rip apart. And another thing
I'm going
about
to
Sombra.
unfold this and turn it into like an antenna that I can wear to pick up
I
signals.
feel like 3 people are listening to this podcast at this point. They've all switched off, like my
You're
mum, Gav, and Rory.
A fellow Sombra.
There is no way Gav's listening to
That's
this.
true. He's not on it, so he's not listening. Say whatever we want.
Well, Levon Young, is saying. So
I remember Levon Young.
Has Levon Young sent him?
Yeah, he's the one who trashed Keyword Countdown once.
And then apologised for it very kindly.
That's true, he did.
You've got to remember.
Well, they have quite a good question.
Well, I'm sure
They do.
They're a human.
Not all humans have good questions.
That's
Joe.
true.
It's very true. Well, they want to know. So I'm concerned and excited about Nintendo and mobile phone gaming. Pokemon Go is all-consuming for me. Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing are absolutely my favourite 3DS games. However, I'm concerned I won't be able to invest enough time in each upcoming mobile game. How many mobile phone games are you currently juggling? Do you ever go back once you delete them?
That's interesting. So I have on my phone 2 folders. I've got now games and I've got past games. So I keep.
You are so organised.
I've got 2 folders for games called short games, long games.
Nice.
Nice.
This isn't even taking into account my iPad, which is full of games that I barely touched because I never use my iPad. But like, I do go back to past games. But at the moment, I'm playing 2 games. I'm playing until this morning.
Robot.
I'm playing Mr. Robot and I'm playing Reigns.
Okay, yeah, I'm playing Reigns as well. That's a good game.
Have you seen Reigns?
I've not
It's
seen
really
Reigns.
good. It's essentially a medieval kingdom management game played out through the
Like
idea
Tinder.
of Tinder.
Yeah.
You swipe right or left.
That's amazing.
It's really, really clever and it's funny and it's got a great story. Like we were talking about narrative, I was going to bring it up earlier. It's like it's got a great little internal narrative that you're trying to piece together as you're playing like this quite basic strategy game. It's really clever.
It's like continual reigns as well. Like, so every time your king dies, you take the new king and he's taking place after that king as well.
So there's like this strange kind of running thing where you appear to be the same soul inhabiting kings throughout the
Oh,
ages.
that's quite cool.
Do you think that's true? Because I've had it a few times where they say we want to honour your father.
Oh yeah, no, but at the start of the game it says you were cursed to be immortal, like your soul is immortal.
okay,
so I
right,
think
right.
the idea is you are a single being inhabiting 1,000,000 bodies or whatever. But it's really, really cool.
It's so fun.
So it's reigns as in he reigns over me,
Yes.
not gosh, look at all that rain.
Or horse reigns.
Or horse reigns.
Yeah.
Reigns, that one down the bottom there.
It's good. It's got a cool art style as well. It's very good. Anyway, so yeah, my point being, I think I usually juggle about 2 games.
Yeah, I've got
I play
3
a
or
lot
4
of threes
games
as well.
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 games on the. I've got Mr. Robot, Pokemon Go still, occasionally when I'm walking mostly, and I've got Bejeweled Stars as well because I love me some Bejeweled and PopCap. And if there's a new PopCap game, I'm all over it every time.
Fair play.
But for games that I've got, I rarely do go back. But I've got a few like Ridiculous Fishing. Did you play that?
Ridiculous Fishing.
I never got into
I
that.
adored that. I did everything I could, deleted the app, and then about a year later, I really wanted to play again, so I went back
fair
and did it
play.
all again.
I know the developer of that, and he is the loveliest man I think I've ever met.
That's
Tell
good.
him I fucking love his
I
game.
will.
I swore
I
way
will.
too much on this episode. I apologise.
There are, what do I like? What have I gone back to? Cannabolt, I go back to a lot.
That's a good game,
Cannabolt's
yeah.
just the original and the best Endless Runner.
I like Jetpack Joyride though. I was a fan of that.
Oh, Jetpack Joyride's incredible.
Really
Yeah. And what's the other one that I go? Oh, 80 Days is just one
80
of
Days
the
is
best.
brilliant by Inkle. So good. I mean, I think
we can say we're hosting the launch party for Inkle's next game, Sorcery 4.
Hey, I didn't know we were doing that.
We're doing that in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
That's
nice.
really cool.
We'll have a post about that on the website
Awesome.
at some point soon.
Check that out, guys.
We're doing a co-podcast with the Inklecast.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, I'm
gonna be
really
fantastic.
excited for that.
Yeah.
That'll be really cool. I mean, I think Levon's question, saying how many phone games are you currently juggling? Do you ever go back once you delete them? Like, absolutely. I kind of look at games, especially mobile games, in the same way that sometimes I'd look at books. Like you can have the enjoyment and then go back once again.
Well, I've got one of the
down the
worst
line.
memories of all time, and so going back to games is perfect because I remember almost nothing of them.
Did you play Game Dev Story
Yes.
and New Star Soccer as well? Did you play?
Oh, New Star Soccer is an absolute. I had to delete that because it was destroying my life.
Both of those are games where I've played through and then deleted and then gone back like a year or so later because I want to try it again, and you do it a little bit differently. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's not a narrative game. Obviously, both of them. Game Dev Story was incredible for that. Like,
Kairosoft, who make all those games, are unbelievable. Like, they make the same game over and over again, and somehow it's always great. Like, it's fantastic.
They have the magic touch.
Yes. Also, point worth raising: the Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing games. Like, do you have any idea what those are going to be like?
Nobody
Because I
does.
cannot
No,
guess what they're going to do with those. Like, particularly Fire Emblem. That's such a
the
strange.
only thing I can say is they're going to do for those games what Pokemon Go did compared to Pokemon. It's going to create some sort of mobile-friendly version.
Yeah.
It's simplified, but that's that's not an answer. That's all I can imagine right now.
Like,
who
my
knows?
big theory about Animal Crossing New Leaf was that it was making fun of mobile games, free-to-play mobile games,
Right,
because
okay.
it constantly did stuff they did and just made it slightly better.
Yeah.
And so I kind of get how Animal Crossing could translate. But Fire Emblem's like an intense strategy game you play over hours. I don't know how that translates to a mobile experience. It's going to be really weird.
It'll be interesting to see how they do it and
Yeah.
distill it down. Cool. What's our third and final bit of feedback?
Can I just do this?
Yeah! Oh, nearly.
Nearly came out.
Del tried to throw it over his shoulder and it just floated
Do you
back
know about
down
the
onto
Rory
thing.
Have you ever
one?
seen
I know
the
about
Rory gif?
I cannot believe that. I've seen the gif of it.
It came back the right way.
No.
No.
One day
never
I'll-
gonna
One day we will meet Rory.
Okay, so this
covered
is
in
from
crumbs.
Sebastian Trower. I run a business and have a toddler, so my gaming time is very limited. As a result, I find myself getting frustrated at the lack of skill and basically being quite shy at games now. I watch a lot of Let's Plays on YouTube as I still have a love for games, just not the time and patience to get good at them. Can you guys recommend me a game to get back into the swing of things?
Ooh, one that's
Okay.
not too difficult.
So
then.
let's
Still good.
narrow down what's going to be useful to someone in this position.
Yeah.
So presumably you want a game that can be played in relatively small
Dip
chunks.
in, dip out, yeah.
Yeah. You want, I guess, something. You probably don't want something story-led.
No,
I've got the
I
answer.
think
Quite
you could want. I
intensively.
think
I've
you
got the
could
answer.
want Storyline.
Go on then.
No Man's Sky.
No, I
You like No Man's Sky
completely
more than
disagree with
anyone
that.
else in the world.
That is true. I am a big super fan of No Man's Sky, but I was a fan of Minecraft as well, and I think those two are very much cut from the same cloth, where you can dip in, play for half an hour, explore a little bit, and then dip out, and then you don't feel like you've pushed any narrative or anything like, because there is no narrative.
I mean, I agree with that in some senses. Once you've got past the initial investment, I think with a
Yeah.
game like that, you
There's
have
learning
to
the mechanics.
You have to invest a good like the first play session. You've got to play it for at least 3 hours, and then
Sunday
I think-
afternoon, just get that done, and then you can chip away.
If you could get
afterwards.
like a whole day to just devote to that, if you've kick your kid out and just,
I mean, if he hasn't played lots of games and he wants something that's all encompassing, it's such an obvious answer. But there's like Grand Theft Auto, where it's got so many different mechanics and games within the game
Yeah.
that
I was thinking something like XCOM. Like
Interesting.
that's-
short missions, but
Yeah.
with a very consistent through line. You've got this
Right.
idea of like constantly managing one thing, but you play the game itself is separated into very distinct chunks and like really interesting, in-depth stuff that you can think about over a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
But you can play in like tiny moments.
Just had another thought. Overwatch.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Overwatch.
Who would have thought?
No, but I just thought because we play it at lunchtime, and I don't take that game home with me. It stays at work,
Yeah.
and I love that game. But it's a game of let's just have a couple of games at
Always
lunchtime,
play
and
it
that's
quick.
it.
We
Yeah.
put tens of
We
hours
do like-
into in
in
increments.
half an
Yeah.
hour increments.
And
Yeah.
it's something, if he hasn't got much spare time, but he's got a
Yeah.
spare like 20, 30 minutes,
Good
have a few
shout.
games of Overwatch.
The only
Really
issue
good.
is we have a very skewed idea of Overwatch because we always play together.
That's true.
And a lot
Yeah.
of people I know have played it and gone, I just can't organise this.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
if you're someone
yeah.
who's playing at
Yes.
just the moments you get,
Yeah.
you're not going to have as good a time, I don't think.
Absolutely. I saw that with the Division when everyone at work was playing it for about a couple of weeks and then everyone stopped while I was still playing it. And then I just had to play with randoms all the time because I couldn't, no way, organise like groups of friends
Yeah.
to do
It's
it.
never
you
as
know.
fun.
No.
Never as fun. It's the community.
So
aspect of it.
maybe that's a good point.
But then
I
actually,
would've-
sorry, carry on.
Well, I mean, I was going to suggest my game. Are you...
Go for it.
Cool. I was going to say something along the lines of Tomb Raider or perhaps even Uncharted. Basically something where you've got a set series of levels with something that I'd say is story-driven that you can play in kind of hour-long bursts, half-hour-long bursts if you want to. I'll just get through this tomb. I'll just get through this section. But it's funneled
dangerous.
down.
That's the way I play all my games, and it's always really dangerous. I was
Yeah,
like,
but we know that you're a broken man. You can't stop.
no, but I'll be like, I'll just get through this tomb, and then I'll be like, oh, but there's something shiny over there, and that's it, and then I'm off. Trophy.
But then that's the other thing. So for instance, with Tomb Raider that you can do, which is really nice. You know, you've got the main story missions, but then you can always do just like a couple of side missions. Basically, you can go say, I'm going to find 5 collectibles of blah blah blah, and then you can trophy hunt with them a lot
I've
more.
totally
and
done that as
and
well.
that's really fun. You can do that in like bursts.
I'd say Tomb Raider and Uncharted is a nice suggestion, but both quite different ones. Like
Yeah.
Tomb Raider's a bit more granular, whereas Uncharted is easygoing.
Yeah.
Uncharted you can start and just have a
End
nice
at whatever
time
point.
and just stop and then come back to it, and it feels quite nice. Whereas Tomb Raider's like, I'm going to go here, do this. Like, there's a lot. It's more task based.
And it's not as funneled. Like Uncharted is very much you're kind of patted along.
Well, certainly the new Tomb Raider is like big open areas as
definitely.
well.
If you went and back and played like Anniversary or something, then you'd have more of an Uncharted.
Another idea might be, I don't know if he's got a Vita or not, but a lot of those games are built and designed for like, you know, short bursts of play. Like I was playing Volume recently, and they're all just very short little self-contained missions that you can do in a couple of minutes each time. And if you've only got a small amount of time, there might be a bunch of games on the Vita, or you know, a bunch of those Vita games are on PS4 as well. So
I don't know about business owning toddler man because I've forgotten his name, but if he is
Sebastian,
as he shall henceforth be referred.
if Sebastian is a total boss, then he'd play Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate because it's the best game ever made and is perfectly designed for those kind of things. But the unfortunate thing with that is that to get the most out of it, you should be playing with other people because it is completely inscrutable.
Yes.
But it is fantastic.
It is amazing. Cool. Well, if you guys have any suggestions of any of the games that you play or in your spare time when you've not got much time, let us know at, I should know this email, podcast, right, let me guess it. Feedback,
No.
IGN, UK.
No. IGN_UK feedback.
You're right.
IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Yes.
That last bit shouldn't have been tricky.
It is, but to be fair, it's the worst email address of all.
absolutely.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
We'll never change.
I've had it every week, you guys saying it, and now for the first time I've had to be the one that says it. And it's
If the confusion is where the
terrifying
underscore
amount.
goes, it's after UK or after IGN.
IGN
It makes no
underscore.
sense
It
that
makes
it's
no
there.
sense.
Yeah,
It makes-
it's
if you
weird.
can make sense of it, let us know by emailing. Okay, that's all we've got time for, I think, this week.
Yeah.
Cool. So we will see you guys next time.
Bye. Sorry.